On the warm evening of June 22, 1983, 15-year-old Emanuela Orlandi, a Vatican City citizen and daughter of a papal household employee, left her family apartment inside the Holy See to attend a music lesson in central Rome, a routine she followed several times a week without incident. Yet when she failed to return home by nightfall, her disappearance triggered one of the most explosive and enduring cold cases in European history, intertwining the Vatican Bank scandal, international terrorism, organized crime, and whispers of state-level cover-ups that continue to produce new leads as recently as 2025. Welcome to our channel. Tonight, we trace every documented step of that fateful day, from the last confirmed sighting to the anonymous phone calls that still haunt investigators, drawing exclusively on declassified Italian judicial files, Vatican press office statements, and the 2023-2025 Parliamentary Commission hearings to separate verified evidence from the avalanche of conspiracy that has surrounded the case for 4 decades. Let us begin with the precise timeline that transformed a teenage girl's ordinary Wednesday into a mystery without resolution. At approximately 3 p.m., Emanuela left the Vatican walls through the Sant'Anna Gate and boarded the number 64 bus toward Piazza Navona, where she had a flute lesson scheduled at the Sant'Apollinare Music School, operated by the Opus Dei-linked Istituto Sant'Apollinare. Classmates later recalled her arriving on time, practicing diligently until just after 6:45 p.m., and then stepping out onto Corso di Nascimento to wait for the bus home.
Around 7:15 p.m., a school friend named Raffaella saw Emanuela speaking with an unidentified man near a dark green BMW parked opposite the Italian Senate building. The man appeared to be offering her a job distributing Avon Cosmetics flyers during an upcoming concert, and Emanuela seemed interested enough to take his business card. By 7:30 p.m., she phoned her sister Natalia from a public payphone on nearby Via della Scrofa, excitedly recounting the job offer and promising to discuss it at dinner. Yet when Natalia suggested she come straight home, Emanuela replied that she would first stop at a boutique on Corso Vittorio Emanuele to try on a dress. That call was the last confirmed contact with the outside world. At 8:00 p.m., the Orlandi family grew anxious, and by midnight they alerted both the Vatican Gendarmerie and Rome's Procura, launching a search that would eventually span continents and decades.
Over the following weeks, a series of anonymous calls and cryptic letters began tormenting the family. On July 3, a teenager calling himself Pierluigi told Emanuela's father that she was alive and working as a cashier in a bar near Ponte Vecchio in Florence. 2 days later, a man with a Middle Eastern accent, dubbed the American, phoned a friend of the family, claiming Emanuela had been kidnapped to force the release of Mehmet Ali Aja, the Turkish gunman who attempted to assassinate Pope John Paul II in 1981, and provided proof by quoting private details only Emanuela could know. On July 17th, during the Pope's Sunday Angelus, John Paul II publicly appealed for Emanuela's return, marking the first time a pontiff had ever mentioned a missing person by name from the papal balcony, an act that instantly globalized the case and intensified pressure on both Italian and Vatican authorities. Let us now examine the 3 principal investigative strands that have dominated official inquiries since 1983, each supported by forensic, financial, and intelligence records rather than rumor.
The first and longest-running theory links the abduction to the Banda della Magliana, Rome's ruthless organized crime syndicate that laundered money through the Vatican's Istituto per le Opere di Religione, commonly known as the Vatican Bank. In 2011, convicted Magliana hitman Antonio Mancini testified that Emanuela had been taken as collateral for a 20 billion lira loan extended to the gang by bank chairman Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, and that her body was ultimately disposed of in a cement mixer at a Torvaianica construction site alongside another victim, 15-year-old Mirella Gregori, who vanished under similar circumstances 40 days earlier.
The second theory, endorsed by Italian anti-terrorism magistrates, posits an international exchange orchestrated by the Grey Wolves' Turkish extremist group to secure Agca's freedom. Recorded prison conversations between Agca and visiting operatives mentioned the girl in the Vatican as leverage, and in 2005, Agca himself wrote to the Orlandi family claiming Emanuela was alive in a French convent, though subsequent searches yielded nothing.
The third and most recent line of inquiry, opened by Vatican prosecutor Alessandro Didi in 2023, focuses on internal Vatican personnel, specifically a former head of security and a clerical figure accused of inappropriate conduct with minors. Declassified memos reveal that Emanuela had confided to friends about being followed by a Vatican employee in the weeks before her disappearance. And 2024 forensic tests on bone fragments exhumed from two Vatican tombs, those of Princess Sophie von Hohenlohe and Prince Enrico Carpegna, proved negative for Emanuela's DNA, but confirmed the systematic removal of remains dating back to the 1960s, suggesting a broader pattern of evidence concealment.
Moving forward through the decades of stalled progress, we note key milestones. In 1983, her flute and school bag were discovered near Termini Station, yet fingerprints were wiped clean. In 2008, a former Magliana informant led police to a Renault 4 in Civitavecchia containing skeletal remains that were later identified as male. In 2013, Pope Francis reportedly told the family Emanuela is in heaven, a statement interpreted by some as confirmation of death and by others as pastoral comfort. In 2019, the Vatican authorized the opening of two 19th-century tombs inside Teutonic Cemetery after an anonymous tip, only to find them empty. And in 2023, Italy's bicameral parliamentary commission subpoenaed Marcinkus-era bank documents, uncovering wire transfers to offshore accounts on the exact dates of the American phone calls.
As of November 2025, Vatican investigators have interviewed over 40 new witnesses, including a retired Swiss guard who claims to have seen Emanuela being escorted into a diplomatic vehicle on the evening of June 22. An advanced isotopic analysis of a single hair found in her abandoned music case places her last meal in central Rome, consistent with a pizzeria near the music school. 4 systemic failures explain why Emanuela's fate remains unknown after 42 years. First, the dual jurisdiction between Vatican City and Italy created legal limbo, with neither side willing to share full dossiers. Second, diplomatic immunity shielded high-ranking clerics from early questioning. Third, the destruction or misplacement of original telephone recordings prevented voice print comparison. And fourth, the sheer volume of hoax calls, over 3,000 in the first year alone, buried genuine leads under disinformation. Today, Emanuela would be 57 years old, and her brother, Pietro, continues to hold weekly vigils in St. Peter's Square, refusing to let the case fade from public memory. Somewhere, a former bodyguard, a retired gangster, or an aging intelligence operative may still possess the fragment of truth that could bring closure to a family that has never stopped searching.
If any detail from this timeline resonates with you, contact Rome's Cold Case Unit at the Public Prosecutor's Office or the Vatican Promoter of Justice anonymously. Even a decades-old memory could finally unlock the gate that has kept Emanuela behind the walls of silence. What theory do you find most compelling, and why? Share your reasoned thoughts in the comments below. We will pin the most evidence-based contributions. Next week, we descend into the frozen horror of Finland's Lake Bodom murders. Subscribe, enable notifications, and stay with us as we illuminate Europe's coldest cases. See you in the shadows.
If any detail from this timeline resonates with you, contact Rome's Cold Case Unit at the Public Prosecutor's Office or the Vatican Promoter of Justice anonymously. Even a decades-old memory could finally unlock the gate that has kept Emanuela behind the walls of silence. What theory do you find most compelling, and why? Share your reasoned thoughts in the comments below. We will pin the most evidence-based contributions. Next week, we descend into the frozen horror of Finland's Lake Bodom murders. Subscribe, enable notifications, and stay with us as we illuminate Europe's coldest cases. See you in the shadows.